what's up guys? Last week somebody asked me about the mix ratios for making cob, because I've recently put out a video on how to mix cob using a tarp, and they were just asking about what ratios to use to actually do the mixture. So I just wanted to clarify on that point. So the mixture ratio is going to differ pretty much for everybody because the soil differs everywhere. So you're going to have to test it yourself and find the proper ratio to use. But there's a couple ratios that usually work. So I would experiment and start with a 1-to-1 ratio, so 1 part soil to 1 part aggregate, and then I'd break off either way. So depending on how that turns out, go with 1 part soil to 2 parts aggregate or 3 parts aggregate, or flip it around and go 1 part aggregate to 2 parts soil or 3 parts soil. So that gives you some basic ratios to start with. So like on your first ratio mixture of 1-to-1, if it's too sandy and too flaky, you might want to start adding more soil to the mixture. If it's not sticking together enough, you want to add more soil. So and then if there's not enough soil, usually you'll get a lot of cracking when it dries, so you maybe want to add more aggregate. So again, you need to test it because soil is different everywhere, and the best way to test, way I recommend, is to make test blocks of cob and let them dry for usually 24 hours is good enough, and then see how they do. See if they crack, see if they crumble. Do drop tests, drop it from about hip height. You can see whether they just crumble apart when they fall, or if they break or not break and such. So use these common mix ratios. You can refine these more if you need to, but usually these ratios will work. Make your cob mixtures, make test blocks, see how they dry, and then if you really want to test even further, make larger pieces of cob, because sometimes you'll make a test block and it'll look perfect, but then when you start building with that same mixture and you start building a bigger piece or a bigger structure, sometimes those flaws can show, as in cracks and things like that. So maybe your mixture wasn't actually quite perfect. So there you go. I hope that helped, and I hope that gives some clarity on that topic. Thanks.